4 minutes past 12. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media, and you might be hearing a dog barking in the background. Yeah, it's here at home. Anyways, those are the perks of working from home, right? So today's hit list is Irfaan Mangera, who is an activist and program manager at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, and he's here to share his journey with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Irfaan, and shukr for joining me.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks for having me, Maryam, and also good afternoon and to your listeners and to your dog as well.
Three of them.
Oh, wow,
Right.
okay.
You have been at the forefront as standing up to human rights, and not just in South Africa, but globally as well. When did your journey begin, and is this something that you've always wanted to do?
Um, I wouldn't say forefront, but yeah, international solidarity has been part of my action, my activism. My activism journey started, I think a lot of it is rooted from within my family and my schooling life, where we were encouraged by a few teachers, a few amazing teachers, to volunteer and contribute to community building work. And it was through those actions that then led me on to start analyzing society differently and start analyzing my own or reflecting on my own legacy in my family. Some of my family members had contributed to the liberation movement, others still continue to do so. But it was that reflection that allowed me to then pursue a degree in education. And I can there's many parts to my activism journey. Like I said, school was one of them. The other one was sports. Sports played a big role. Organizing youth to come to play cricket was a very skillful experience, but one that also allowed me to see that many young people required a space to belong, a space to participate in a free environment, in an environment that allows them to grow holistically and express themselves with joy. Thereafter, I think it was campus activism, volunteer work. Campus activism really shaped my political understanding. Coming from an area like Lenasia, I didn't really have that political influence of the broader social issues. We sometimes often work and live in a bubble, and I think that it was important to burst that bubble going to my tertiary education. And Fees Must Fall subsequently was my first year of university, and that's where I then got involved in student organizations and also then took forward work around in the solidarity movement.
All right, now you are currently the Youth Activism Program Manager at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. What does your role entail?
So yeah, I think all of that experience socially in social activism, political activism, sports, aid, humanitarian work really shifted me to not want to pursue just a normal career where I can go into a school and earn a living and that's it. I think there was more to life, and I believe that there's more to life, and it required a critical understanding of what that purpose would be. So just finishing my qualification, I did a Bachelor of Education, and I went straight into the foundation as an education and training officer. The program entails organizing youth in different communities through youth clubs. Youth activist clubs are basically spaces where young people can organize, they can come together, debate, discuss, and basically campaign on issues that are affecting them in the area. I then took over the role as program manager and had now the biggest responsibility of carrying forward Kathrada's legacy, because that's what this program is about, is how do we take forward the values that Kathrada stood for. And what that means is a lifelong commitment to activism, to social change and social justice. And we currently have just under 20 youth clubs in the province of Gauteng, looking at 100 youth clubs by the year 2029. But the nitty-gritties and the elements of youth organizing are really about democracy building and about community building work, because before you consider yourself a leader, you must consider yourself a servant, a community worker, somebody who's actively engaging in building institutions and organizations and collaborating with community leaders and organizations. So these youth clubs are meant to serve that purpose, where young people are able to come together, elect their own leadership, and we then support them. So we support them via research, via some form of campaign support, networking with other organizations in the field. And I mean, there's numerous examples I could give. One of them, the recent one, that thanks to Islam Media also for outlining the campaign, which is the Lehigh Library Must Open. This is a community, a township area where we have a youth club who's saying they don't have infrastructure. This library was built in 2018 and hasn't really been open yet. So our role then is, how do we support these young people in firstly organizing themselves, putting a clear program of action together, and then as civic activists, build community networks to apply pressure and hold officials to account for their failure to deliver services and open up this library that will not just benefit youth, but the entire community, because there's no, I mean, unemployment, we know the stats. I mean, I can go into stats that paint a very bleak picture, but the reality is that it has to happen at a grassroots level, where a library opens opportunities and doors for learning, for jobs, for creating and becoming more employable with skills programs and so on and so on. So I think the program is holistic, but at the core of it is around ensuring youth have a space to be politically active. And our program is non-aligned to any political party, because we believe that you can still be politically active without having to be part of a political party. However, obviously, noting that I think, political parties play an important role, but how do we then hold them accountable? And this is the type of work that we're trying to do.
All right, Alhamdulillah. Now, you mentioned that your family, some of your family members contributed to your activism and what you do today. Now, who were some of your favorite, or rather your notable struggle heroes, and how did they inspire your journey?
I think there were a number, because growing up in Lenasia, there were many struggle stalwarts that actually come from this area and who lived here. And
Mhm.
um, I had the fortunate experience to meet, for example, Uncle Kathrada himself, and learn about his story. Dr. Abu Bakr Azvat, who just recently was awarded by the president one of the most prestigious national awards for his courage and commitment. So, Dr. Azvat was a family friend. He was the people's doctor, as he was known, the chairman of the Crescents Cricket Club, which I belong to as well. There were numerous others. I think in my family, one of my uncle or grand uncles had gone into exile. Uh, Abdul Bam. We had my uncle who's in the East Rand, who's just now retired as a deputy chief whip of Ikuruleni in this last municipal elections. My cousin who's in politics as the infrastructure MEC. So there's been lots of these discussions that were had, but notable struggles that was, I think, as a legacy, as being part of the Legacy Foundation, Kathrada does stand out because I've learned a lot about him. But there are numerous others who contributed. We've been fortunate at the foundation that we engage with many of these struggle stalwarts, struggle heroes, who literally gave up their life in service. Marita Nzanga, uh, there's so many others that I can name, but for me, it's not about. I used the word incorrectly earlier of saying heroes. I don't necessarily, hero attach the word hero to them, because each of us have flaws and so on. But their service is an inspiration, and their values, what they stood for, is what I believe is important to entrench in today's society, especially with working with youth. So yeah. One more thing, I think perhaps one of the greatest shifts in that family history that I didn't mention was, my family was in the area of Fitas, Vredendorp, and they were forcibly removed under apartheid to come and live 35 kilometers in Lenasia. And I think for me, in the recent past, has been reflecting on that history and what forced removals meant, not just for them as a family, because there's known traumas around that, but how does that generational trauma still affect us and myself in particular today? And how do we then change that trajectory? And part of my motivation as an activist is comes from those roots of that history, being an anti-colonial, anti-racist, anti-apartheid kind of history.
All right. Please stay with us, Irfaan. We're going to take a quick break and we'll continue thereafter, inshallah.
Shukran.
You know what it's like to be at ground zero, with food essentials, clothing and blankets, fresh water portal trucks, and even on-site navigators. We use every cent to better their tomorrow. Become part of our journey to bring relief to all. Go to www.ashrafulaid.org or call us on 011-809-8181. Ashraful Aid, under the auspices of Maulana Suhail Wadi.
Looking to get your kick? Kiki's have now reopened on 235 Matthews Maiwa Road in Durban. Head on over for the Taste with Kick. We offer something scrumptious for everyone in the family. Wraps, chicken tikka, burgers, tender grills, mocktails, milkshakes, and so much more. Corporate and events catering available. Visit our social media pages for more info or call 031 209 0119. Kiki's, the Taste with Kick.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
It's the biggest sale of the year, the Randery Jewelers Black Friday weekend. Fantastic deals on gold earrings, diamond rings, watches, and so much more. Treat yourself to a relaxing foot massage, gorgeous henna application, or sit down for our delicious high tea. From Friday the 26th until Sunday the 28th of November at 151 Stephen Dlamini Road, Musgrave. Follow Randery Jewelers on Instagram for more details. Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Little bare feet on the icy wet ground, a shiver at his lips, mud on his clothes. When he is cold, the hunger is worse, the nights are longer, and the pain is more severe. What if this was your child? The Al-Imdad Foundation's Global Winter Appeal allows you to make a difference for refugees, IDPs, and struggling communities in 21 countries globally. Sponsor a winter pack today for just 600 Rand. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243.
Penny Appeal's Education First campaign helps children to get access to quality education.
I'm 14 years old. When I grow up, I'd like to be a scientist.
We believe every child belongs at school,
And we want education, a better education.
learning and dreaming their way to a better future. With your help, We can provide classrooms, desks, stationery packs, and school shoes. Help make these dreams a reality. Visit www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
It's 20 minutes past 12. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Maryam Mkwanda. And our hit list for today is youth activist and a program manager at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, Irfaan Mangera. If you have any questions or comments for him, please leave them in the comment section below or send them to us on WhatsApp. The number is 061 766 0355. Irfaan, shukran for staying with us now. Why is youth activism important? Why is it something that is so close to your heart? And also, what can we do to get the youth more involved in matters that affect us?
Thank you so much, Maryam, for that important question. Linking it to one of the previous questions where you asked, who are some of the activists or struggle stalwarts that I look up to. What I find as a common feature with all of those, and in fact most of them, is that they started their activism at a very, very young age. Kathrada himself, from the age of 8, from the age of 12, was starting to really engage in some form of activism. Ahmed at 25, at 26, and many others in that age category, in their teens, who had really had the strong conviction towards changing their society. We had, most of them who are serving in parliament today and who are in the structures, political structures, come from that background where they had started at a very young age. So for me, it's understanding that youth have lots of power. If that power is organized, if we maintain the kind of discipline that we want, because we generally have a militancy about us, and by militancy I don't mean some form of violence. I think there's a militancy that's a very disciplined one. That's one that requires youth to be the change agents in society. We've seen it globally, where there's huge shifts in the political dynamics started off by young people, because young people really have to grasp and face the realities on the ground, and the fact that it is their futures that are being used or rather abused. We see it with the climate crisis. We see it with unemployment, with poverty and inequality. So the importance of youth to be part of this change process is very, very high. Youth have the agency for change. We've seen how, in numbers, protests have been happening across this country consistently, led by young people. So it's not that young people are not engaged from this political system, but it's that they are consciously opposing a status quo that is not supporting them. They're supporting their growth and their development and transformation of these systems. In the last election, young people didn't come out in numbers. We know it's a common feature globally, where more and more young people are not coming out to vote because of the system that is not serving them, and it's a conscious choice. So I do not necessarily think it's voter apathy, for example. So it's important that we recognize that when it comes to those things, part of that consciousness building work is action. And this is what we're trying to do at the foundation, is to get young people to think of, sure, we recognize that there's no that the system might not be working to our advantage, but how then do we change that system to start working in our advantage, to apply pressure on that system and build power as a collective? And building power ultimately comes with organizing work. When you start working at a grassroots level, you have a strong body of youth who can be represented by a particular leadership. But you start enabling this democracy from a grassroots level upwards. And then you effect change by exerting that pressure using the democratic and constitutional process that we have. So, when it comes to the climate crisis, we've seen youth lead this globally. When it comes to changing the economic issues in the country, youth have been fighting for this, whether it was the universal basic income grant or multiple other issues around the economy. So that's a fundamental need, is that youth need to organize and really understand that our role now is to ignite a change that will allow us to build political power and social power such that we don't see what's happening in society today. I spoke a few days ago on a panel at the National Youth Dialogue where the particular group that I facilitated was about representation of youth in political and leadership space. But, those spaces are often gate-kept and are places where you'd have people who had served since democracy doing the same thing over and over, and we expect the same results. And the definition of that is insanity. So we really need to allow ourselves to build that power so we can then find ourselves taking or getting elected into positions of power where we can actually make fundamental change to these systems that govern us.
Mhm. Yeah, our role as youth is very important. I mean, we also know about the youth in Islam, in the Islamic context as well, and their role and how important it was, such that there is a surah that talks about the youth as well. Now, quickly, Irfaan, we're gonna have play a game. It's called Quickfire. I'm gonna ask you 5 questions, and you need to answer them as quickly as possible. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. If you were president, who would be your deputy?
This is a very difficult one. I don't know if I have an answer.
All right.
Perhaps a young activist that I know, and a very strong woman, Nonkululeko Mtambo, was somebody that just comes off the cuff of my head as a very sound leader who I think stands by very progressive values. Yeah.
Okay, what would your top priority be as the president?
I think it would be really transformation of the economy, and that also speaks to the role of youth unemployment and ensuring that we focus on community-led initiatives and community growth. So entrepreneurship, but also community-led ownership, and not ownership by individuals and interest groups, and basically the capitalist model that we're functioning on. So it would be a huge shift towards community ownership and people's-led ownership.
All right. If you could choose a superpower between strength, invisibility, and mind reading, what would you choose?
Strength, invisibility, and mind reading. I think mind reading.
Oh, you do.
Yeah, mind reading for sure. Yeah, I do like to, penny for your thoughts type of situation, but I try to think about how other people process and what their perspectives are. So mind reading for sure.
What's your favorite quote?
The true revolutionary is guided by great feelings of love. Che Guevara.
All right. And lastly, who would you recommend we follow on social media? Give us at least 3 people.
Young activists. There are so many, but you can follow Raisa Nur Muhammad, Courtney Morgan. You have Nonkululeko is another one. There's a whole Kathrada Youth for sure. Please follow us at Kathrada Youth to follow our work and the work of the amazing activists in our network. As we grow to new areas, you will see more youth who are profiled, and you can then follow them as well. organizations like Youth Capital, Saya, Youth Lab. Please follow all those accounts because you'll find hope and inspiration, which in today's time we need more of.
Right, that concludes the quick fire. And before we leave you, what advice can you give to the audience, whether they are youth or they are not?
I think support young people, support their growth and development. I'm a product of community, so I always look back and see the role of people and organizations like the PSA, Crescents, the aid organizations, the institutions I was with, really contributed towards my development. So I'd say if you are an institution, if you are an organization, create space for youth to lead, for youth to organize. And that space is about resources, but also about profiling, but also about leadership development, giving them the opportunity to fail as well, and let us learn from that failure. In the growing times we're in, there's a shift towards very right-wing politics, and I want to urge all of those listening and everyone, in fact, who stands by progressive values to ensure that we hold fast to one another, we create spaces of love and support, but that we enable space for inclusion, because many people are being othered and left out of the society we're trying to build. And as political shifts towards the right happen, we see what's happened around the world globally, whether it's India with Modi, in South America with people like Bolsonaro, and other parts of the world. So these trends are not fiction, they are happening right before our eyes. Organize in your community, support youth development work, and get involved. Involvement in spaces and organizations mean you can contribute and volunteer, and you don't need to volunteer money or donate money all the time. It's about the manpower, or perhaps that's a wrong word to use, I apologize, people power. So use your agency to contribute. There are organizations who need help with social media awareness, with networking, and so on and so on. And never have I found that these organizations say no. If they don't have spaces, they try to link you up with others who might need that support. In fact, as a board member of Nishtara in Lenasia, I can tell you that perhaps if anyone's listening, we design work and marketing work, we need that kind of support. And it's a community-based organization, so your volunteer work will not go in vain, and it will support the growth of organizations that are doing phenomenal work. So yeah, I think that's about it.
All right, shukran so much for your time, Irfaan, and for taking the time to chat to us. And now people have a little bit more idea of who Irfaan Mangera is. So shukran, have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.
Afwan, thank you so much for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Youth activist Irfaan Mangera taking us through his life as a youth activist and a program manager at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. It is 12:33. Please stay with us. We will be right back.